Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of Beyond Small Talk. I'm your host, Sadia Abdulaziz Muhammad, and today I have with me two incredible guests that will be shedding light on students' mental health. The first is Dr. Maryam Nasir Aliyu, who's a medical doctor, breast cancer researcher, healthcare innovator, and founder of Anatomia. Currently, she's the head of Anatomy department at Yusuf Misama University. Thank you both for honoring our invitation.
Thank you.
So, from the introduction, you two are multi-passionate people. You engage in multiple initiatives and projects. And then, of course, there's your personal life and activities. So how do you manage everything without being overwhelmed?
Okay. So, hello, everyone. As a married woman in the North, so of course, there's a lot going on. I'm a mother of 4 children. And apart from my responsibilities at work, I'm also an entrepreneur trying to run a company, and is a startup. So of course there are so much expectations and a lot of things that need to be done. But the one thing that I found that is very useful is time management. I'm able to manage my time, to allocate my time. Now there's a reason why I left clinical practice in an organized setting. I used to work with Amina Kano Teaching Hospital, but I just looked at some things and I was like, okay, I need to go back to an academic setting because I'm very passionate about research and engaging with the community. So if I'm in a hospital setting, with all the rules, you have to be there from this particular time to this particular time. That will not allow me so much time. And then, of course, my children are very young at that time. So I felt like I'm being taken away from them within those formative years. And those years are very important for their development. So if I'm not there to shape them, then who else is going to do that? So I had to take a step back and go back to the academic setting where I continued my research and doing my advocacies in mental health, in cancer, and doing my research. So apart from that gave me a lot of time, to look at more problems, to engage with especially with the university community and look at what our problems are affecting the students, affecting the teachers, and possibly how to come up with solutions that will be sustained and to bring about the change that we need. Because especially about mental health currently, I always say that anybody who is living in Nigeria currently is not really mentally sound because of so many triggers, so many things making us anxious, so many uncertainties, all those feelings. So of course they are going to affect you in a way. But how do you channel that? How do you take all that and transfer it into something productive and transfer it into something that is impactful? So actually that's where I, directed my energy, and I tried to allocate my time appropriately to each of these activities.
Thank you. So getting into the heart of the matter, students' mental health. So what are the common mental health conditions faced by students, and how can one recognize the signs and symptoms?
In my experience as a teacher, I think the most common symptoms are anxiety and depression, especially around exam time. When, things get overwhelming and you start to see these manifestations in students, they start to exhibit various kind of behaviors. And if you're not careful, you may miss it. But some is very frank. Now, one thing about mental health is not always very obvious. Mental illness is not always something that you see and say, oh, this person is doing this. Sometimes, there are some cues, some little cries for help that a student may be sending or a patient may be sending. So it's left for you as somebody who is aware, to look at all those issues. But the commonest are usually anxiety, depression. Sometimes we do get cases of frank psychosis, and somebody maybe may have a background mental illness that has not been taken care of in the past. And then with so much triggers, the tension of exam, maybe the fear of failing and all that, and then he will have an episode. I think last session I had an experience with a student. She's in 100 level. And it turns out that each time they are going to have an exam or a test, in a way, she's a very good student. So, but each time they are about to have an exam or a test or any assessment of any kind, she just kind of, she has this, let me say, she goes mute. She just locks into herself. She doesn't interact with anybody. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't do anything. So of course, obviously she will fail. So the first time I spoke to her, one thing I noticed was that she's an overachiever. She had this abject fear of failing. She doesn't want to disappoint herself. She has high expectations of herself and she doesn't want to fail. She has set a very high standard for herself and she's afraid of failing. So what we did when I spoke to her, I said, okay, so, but it's okay to fail. And then you don't even know your capacity if you have not tried, because she was in 100 level. And at that time, the year was ending. She has never taken any form of assessment. I said, so you have not tried, you have not realized what your full potential is. You don't even know. So, and what is the worst that will happen? You fail and then you come back and do it again. It's nothing. So after that, we gave her like simulations of tests. They are not actually tests. They are not actual exams. We give her simulations where she can come, and explore her feelings, what she's feeling, the fear of failure. And in the end, she was able to process. And alhamdulillah, now she's in 200 level and they just completed, I think they're about to complete their first semester exam. So most commonly, you look at anxiety, you look at panic attacks, then you look at depression. And then sometimes things can get so bad that you will see frank cases of psychosis.
So usually during high stress periods, like you mentioned, during exams, there's this anxiety. So how do you know that, okay, there's maybe normal anxiety that's due to something else and something that's more serious, something that needs help?
Okay, so for mental health, mental health is something that is, let me say, normal. It's something that affects everyone. It's just like fluctuations in life. We all go through some grief, some pain, some sadness at every point in time. Now, where it becomes a problem is when you are not able to process it. Because by the definition of mental illness is your inability to cope with stress, to cope with things happening to you, and your ability to not be productive. So if these things, you can have anxiety and you can have a panic attack and it's just transient and it passes. But if this anxiety is now affecting you, emotionally, it's affecting your behavior, it's affecting your ability to cope with your environment, your ability to relate with others, your ability to be productive, then that's when it becomes a problem. Yes, but it's okay for people to go through grief and sadness and everything. But what is the problem? When it becomes a problem is when it persists, when it affects how you relate to others. Now, I'm going to give you an example with myself. I also have a mental illness. I have obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. So everybody knows that I'm an organized person. I'm very clean. I have a particular way I do things, but it was never a problem until I lost my dad some 6 years ago. So after that, I realized that I will spend the entire day cleaning. I can't go to work. I'm just stuck in one place cleaning repeatedly. If I find one speck of dirt, I have to start all over again. So you see, it's affecting my productivity. And then when my kids come in my brain, they are just bringing a mess. So that is affecting how I relate with other people. So that is when it became a problem. I had to go to the hospital and say, okay, I realize that there is a problem and I need help. So that's it. When it becomes something that affects how you relate to people, how you cope with your own feelings and emotions and your behavior and your ability to be productive, then that's when it becomes a problem.
May Allah have mercy on his soul. So what self-care activities or strategies would you recommend for someone to regulate their mental health?
Well, there are lots of activities. Now, one of the important things to look at is, what do you like to do to relax? What is your it thing when you are trying to relax? What makes you happy? So that's the first thing. But there are general things that you can do. Exercise is very, very good, because once you exercise, you release hormones, they trigger the happy hormones and, your mood changes. And then there are a lot of meditative activities. You can do yoga, you can do meditation. Even for anxiety, you can do breathing exercises. So once, emotions are coming, and you are getting anxious, so many stimulants are coming, you just concentrate on your breathing. Because you are just focused on that one thing, everything else will just fade away. So there are lots of things. Exercise is very, very important. But sometimes it will reach to a stage where you may need medication. So, but it depends. Other people, it's music, some will dance, and, it's also exercising in a way. For me, I go into art therapy, I paint, once I get into the colors, I forget all about anything and everything. So it depends. Find what you like to do to relax, what makes you calm. Sometimes it may be talking to somebody you trust or somebody you love or something. Just find what works for you. But then the general ones are exercise, eating a healthy diet, having a healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle in general, and then try as much as possible to get enough sleep. Because once you don't sleep, it's kind of like a vicious cycle, Things just keep going around and you get more depressed. I'm not sleeping, you're getting more depressed, you're getting more anxious, and it just becomes a cycle. So sleep, exercise, and then find things that you need to relax. Taking care of yourself, going to the salon, having a mani-pedi, there are so many things.
Okay. So you mentioned a high achiever earlier. So what are some strategies for them to manage their expectations?
So, people that have high expectations, people that are perfectionists, that are high achievers, they are at high risk of having mental health issues because of that expectation they have set for themselves, and they don't want to disappoint either themselves or their family members or something. So there are a lot of work needs to be done. First of all, they need to pace themselves. One thing I always say is that failure is a normal part of life, and you don't learn if you don't fail. Now, if you fail, you will have to look for other ways to make that thing work. But if you don't, you are used to winning, then you are not really learning. It's not a process. So you have to accept that, okay, it's okay to fail at some point. It's okay to not be the best in class. But I'm focused. I have a focus. I want to do this. So everything I'm doing, I'm moving towards that focus. There may be some setbacks, there may be some roadblocks, but I'm forging ahead. I don't mind those things. I'm forging ahead. So it's basically kind of like an acceptance on your own part that I'm trying my best, but it's not always going to be, things are not going to go the way I want, because that is how life is. So actually pacing yourself is very, very important, because once you become, once you fail and then it affects you, then you cannot move forward. You become stuck in that one place because you have failed, you are depressed now, you don't even feel the need to do anything else. You just consider yourself a failure, which is unhealthy. So the best thing is to forge ahead no matter what. It's okay, you feel disappointed, I have failed, I have done this and I have failed. It's okay to feel disappointed, but for a limited time. I always say it's okay to lie on the floor, but for you to remain there is what is not okay. So pick yourself up and then continue to forge ahead. Disappointments will come in every way. Even if you are successful, now like me, for example, I'm trying to run a company, but I can tell you that sometimes I do everything alone, because this person will disappoint, that person will disappoint. So if I take that as something that is limiting, then I cannot forge ahead. But somehow I will just push myself. I say, okay, this is because this is my dream, this is my vision, and I have those targets. I must reach that target, no matter the disappointment, no matter the roadblock. So it's very important to define who you are and what you want to achieve. What is your journey like? Where are you heading to? What is your destination? So that once you are focused, then things come in your way, you will not see them. Now, there's a saying that I recently had, that the brain, the brain has the ability to see the negative. So once you say, I can't do this, all your brain will be seeing is that can't. So just change your perspective into something like, I will do this later, or I can do this at a later time. Maybe not now, but I will do this later. I will reach there some other time. But once you start to think in the negative line, that is the only thing that will remain in you. Your brain will just be focused on the negative. Now, I'm going to give you, for example, let's say you are going to the flyover over there, and your brain says, I can't go there because let's say there's a roadblock. Let's say there's a traffic somewhere. So your brain is telling you, I can't go there. Are there no other alternatives? There are. So instead of saying, I can't get there, why not say, let me look for alternative ways to get there? You know, it may be longer, it may be more difficult to navigate, but at least somehow you will still get there. So thinking in the negative is not good. So just think I can do it. It's just a matter of time. I will get there eventually. So honestly, that's the best way. Just pace yourself and try to take a look back and then reflect from the previous things I have done. Where am I now? Am I moving ahead? Am I stuck in one place, or am I moving backwards? So that will actually govern your decision. If you are moving ahead, then you continue to progress. But if you are stuck somewhere, you need to reassess. What am I doing? Who am I with? What is affecting what? And then we look for strategies and then forge ahead.
So social media is usually triggering for a lot of people. What healthy ways do you think people should be using social media, especially if they get triggered easily?
There are things that you can just pass by. You know, there are comments that you don't need to make. Sometimes I type a whole comment and then I decide, no, this person is not worth it. So because sometimes you look at a person's profile, you look at the way a person is commenting, you know this person is not okay. So once you start engaging with that person, he or she will now pull you down to their level, and then you'll be exchanging, and then you are triggered, and you know things just. So there are some things, you know, there are some platforms where I see issues and I have things to say and comments to make, but I just, you know, for my own mental health, I just let it go. So learn to, you know, let things go. It's not everything that you must comment. It's not every comment that you must respond to. If it triggers you, then just leave it alone. It won't hurt you unless you allow it to hurt you. So if somebody sends you an insulting thing, an insulting comment, just say thank you. And just thank you. That's just it. It's not on your body. It's not going to change anything. That comment says more about the person than about you. So why not allow the person to wallow in his or her self-misery instead of pulling you down to it? So just learn to pass by some things.
So what advice would you give colleges and universities on the resources to provide for students struggling with their mental health?
Honestly, every facility needs to have something, a room, a mental health room, you know, a place to relax, a place where students can express their feelings, and even the teachers, because this doesn't only affect the students, because sometimes, in fact, my students are my triggers. So, you know, because we are together, they are going through something, in a way it will definitely affect you. So you need to also have a coping mechanism. So I'm an advocate of having these relaxation spaces, even if it's a small room, you know, where you can just go. If things get overwhelming, you just go. It's a safe place, it's a comfortable place, and you go and sit there and meditate, you know, take time, you know, just pull away from everything else, just be in that room for that particular minute, and then everything will reset. So we need to have policies, even at national level, we need to have policies that safeguard our mental health, because issues relating to mental health has led to a lot of loss of jobs. You know, people in companies, people will see somebody exhibiting something and will just say, oh, this person is crazy, and just dismiss him, when you can actually offer help to that person and he or she will continue to be productive. So I believe every organization should take priorities concerning mental health, because by the definition of health, health is the highest attainment of physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. So if one aspect is affected, then everything else is affected. If mental health is affected, then the social life is affected, and the physical health is affected. So it's like a cycle. So we need to take priority on mental health. And there's a lot of stigma, you know, on mental health. People will say, no, she's crazy, she's mad, she's this, she's that. And then we are, as a society, especially in northern Nigeria, as a predominantly Muslim, we tend to put religion in it. Now, if you come and say, okay, I'm depressed, I feel sad because of this, and somebody will start questioning your iman. that you don't have faith, you don't believe in God, you don't believe in Qadr. That's why you are going through that. And what I always say is that just the way you cannot pray away malaria, just the way you cannot have faith and eliminate hypertension, that's the way mental illness is. It's a disease. It's like hypertension. It's like malaria. You don't have a choice over it. It's something that affects you. You're afflicted with it, and there are ways to take care of it. There are experts that will take care of it. There are drugs that will take care of it, and there are therapies that will take care of it. So nobody should invalidate your feelings and say this is something that you can snap out of. Actually, that's very, very dangerous when it comes to mental health. It's not something that you can snap out of. It's something that you need to go through therapy, process it, and then if it means getting drugs or other forms of therapies, then you can do that. But it's not something that you can do alone by yourself, by bottling it up. No. So we need to really, really work on that. We need to make the society know about what people are going through, the likely triggers, and how they can be helped. Now, some people will tell you when students are having anxiety attacks during exam, they will tell you it's because they are not serious. Some teachers will just dismiss it that way. When it actually is something that they are going through, something real that they are going through. And for them, it is very, very real. So we need to take care of them. We need to take care of their feelings. We need to teach them, or we need to equip them with the means and resources to be able to handle these things and channel them into being productive members.
Thank you so much for coming. That was a very enlightening session. I hope you've learned a lot about navigating the issues with mental health and you're a bit more open-minded now. We'll see you on the next episode, inshallah. Follow us on our social media pages, subscribe to our channel, and we'll keep the links to their social media pages on our description box. Thank you.